anyone while out in public. The Sodders spent years trying to convince the authorities to reopen the case, believing that their children had been kidnapped, but they adamantly refused, leaving the couple on their own to investigate leads. Time and time again, their search turned out fruitless. George and Jimmy Sodder died without ever learning what happened to their child. Number 8. Secret Cop Killing. On September 7, 1969, Officer Douglas Eugene Cantrell of the Davis, California Police Department was killed in the line of duty near the railroad track in a residential place. The young couple discovered a car which was still running with its lights on. Officer Cantrell was sitting in the front seat with his legs hanging out the open door, a single bullet through the heart, and his .38 caliber pistol on the ground. After joining the department just a month earlier, the 23-year-old patrolman became the first and only Davis Police Department officer ever killed on the job, a distinction he holds to this day. Both suicide and accidental causes were ruled out, but investigators failed to procure any witness accounts of the incident or any suspicious activities in the area. Nobody was ever charged in Officer Cantrell's death, despite several suspects being questioned. One individual who spoke with detectives changed the story of his whereabouts and the murder, making him even more suspicious, but there was no evidence linking him to the crime. Meanwhile, a Louisiana prisoner named Emmett Spencer attempted to implicate his girlfriend, Mary Catherine Hampton, in Officer Cantrell's murder, but he was probably lying, as evidence showed that Hampton was in Florida when the murder. The court case was still open on its 53rd anniversary in 2012, when Rich Richmond told it to the Davis Enterprise and was denied access to the case file. Unfortunately, the murder happened so long ago that anyone with information about the culprit, including the killer themselves, will likely take their secrets to the grave, if they haven't already. Number 7. Five-Glass Camp Incident. A group of 10 young but experienced cross-country skiers trekked into the Ural Mountains near Yekaterinburg, Russia, for what was supposed to be a 3-week trip to Mount Ortforten. What happened to them remains one of the greatest mysteries of all time. They set up camp in a mountain pass, and the leader of the expedition said that he'd telegram his sports club when they returned. Weeks and weeks passed and no sign, so a search party was sent out to find them. They came across a very disturbing scene. What exactly had happened was the rescuers had slashed from the inside, as if the travelers had tried escaping suddenly, with their seemingly abandoned dinner nearby. Outside the tent were a series of footprints made by 8 or 9 people who were either barefoot, in socks, or wearing one shoe. The footprints led to a nearby tree where they found the remains of 2 people, stripped of their clothes and wearing nothing but underwear. Another 2 were spotted who seemed to have died from the cold, but there were no other injuries. 2 months later, 4 more appeared in a ravine with significant injuries and signs of attack. The only survivor was Yura Yudin, an economics scholar who experienced back pain early on in the trip and turned around in the nick of time. The official causes of death were declared to be hypothermia and frostbite. But what had really happened to the group? It was definitely not an animal attack or an avalanche that would take off their clothes and cause all these bizarre injuries. People demanded answers regarding the suspicious deaths, but nobody was ever implicated, including the suspected military and the local Mansi tribe. In early 2019, the Russian government reopened its investigation into the incident, announcing plans to fly experts to the site where the bodies were discovered for forensic tests, in an attempt to determine exactly what happened. Theories range from weapons testing carried out by the military to an encounter with an angry Yeti. Very hard to say for sure until perhaps some documents become declassified. What are your theories about this incident? What do you think happened to them? Let me know in the comments below.
Worried about going to the ER? Our private patient rooms each have their own air circulation and HEPA filter that sterilizes the air every 5 minutes. Plus, we ozonate the rooms for extra sterilization after every single visit. Lakewood Emergency Room at the corner of Mockingbird and Stillman.
We've never done shit like this before.
Number 6. Mara Murray's disappearance. On February 9, 2004, 21-year-old nursing student Mara Murray packed up her dorm room belongings, withdrew cash from an ATM, and hit the road. She emailed one of her professors explaining that there was a death, although there wasn't, and that she would be gone for a week. Her 1996 Saturn was found crashed into a tree in Woodsville, New Hampshire. A police officer at the station had evidence at the scene indicated that the vehicle had been eastbound and had run off the roadway, struck some trees, spun around, and come to rest facing the wrong way. Although it was no mystery that Mara's car had crashed, she was nowhere to be found. It was cold outside, and the ground was covered in snow. A local bus driver who witnessed the crash told police that the young lady on the radio came out and told him not to report it, that she already had. Not true. An empty wine box in the car and red stains indicated that alcohol played a role in the accident. Perhaps she panicked? The only other clues were a set of MapQuest directions to an apartment complex in Burlington, Vermont, along with a typed letter to his boyfriend and relationship problems, which belonged to the dorm room. No trace of Laura was found anywhere that to repeat the crash, leaving authorities with three primary theories. She got a ride, was abducted, or kept walking into the woods and somehow was lost in the snow. Investigative journalists forced the idea that Mara had someone pick her up and take her to Canada, where she started a new life. Renner believes that perhaps she was pregnant and ran off to escape her abusive boyfriend. Either way, it is very strange that she would just disappear without even telling her family. Mara's family is still searching for answers. Earlier this year, they launched a new website in her honor, MaraMurrayMissing.org. Number 5. The Havana Embassy Mystery. In late 2016, CIA agents posing as American diplomats in Havana, Cuba, experienced an array of bizarre symptoms, including loud, mechanical sounds akin to chirping crickets. The individuals were ultimately treated for hearing loss, nausea, headaches, and other concussion-like symptoms. FBI agents found no evidence of what happened. Meanwhile, theories of a long-range acoustic weapon prevailed. The so-called official consensus claiming to experience symptoms suffer from a condition called mass sociogenic illness, which is another term for mass hysteria. Cuban officials in the U.S. State Department squabbled back and forth about whether the bizarre condition was indeed a psychological condition or something else. One study posited that the patients exhibited symptoms of having suffered from in the case of any type of sound weapon or anything like that, the incident was used as an excuse to scale back on former President Barack Obama's moves to lessen tensions and open up diplomatic relations between the U.S. and Cuba. And no agency has conclusively determined who or what was behind the strange incident, leaving the rest of the country and the world to wonder what caused at least 22 individuals to be diagnosed with the bizarre symptoms. What happened to the American diplomats in Cuba? Nobody knows. Number 4. Sleeping sickness epidemic. Starting in the winter of 1916-1917, a strange neurological sickness it's estimated that over 1 million people were afflicted with the condition during this unexplainable period, which lasted into the 1930s. It's believed that the sleeping sickness started in Romania and spread throughout the continent, moving especially efficiently via prominent soldiers during World War I. In 1917, after hitting Vienna, it became an epidemic, and it accompanied the Spanish flu in 1918. One theory holds that a rare strain of Streptococcus bacteria attacking the brain. The experts remain at a loss for an explanation for why people suffer from the disease and its symptoms, which include being essentially frozen in a state of lethargy, along with fever, headache, and double vision. Other side effects include abnormal eye movement, upper body muscular pain, tremors, hallucinations, and in acute cases, patients sometimes even enter a coma. To add to the mystery, the illness seemed to go away for a period of time, only to reappear in Europe decades later during the 1950s, in the US during the 60s, and about 10 years ago in China, when a young girl was hospitalized for several weeks. Dr. Oliver Sacks, who treated patients in the Bronx, described them as seemingly insubstantial as ghosts and as passive as zombies. During past outbreaks, victims were usually between 10 and 45 years old, and while 1/3 of them perished from the disease, Many, if not most, survivors never returned to normal. Even more terrifyingly, there was also an apparent tendency for patients to come down with Parkinson's disease after suffering from sleeping sickness. The medical community's knowledge of the disease is perhaps limited by the small windows of time and opportunities they had to study it. Will sleeping sickness reappear? Let's hope not. Number 3. Romans in Brazil. In 1982, a marine archaeologist about 15 miles of Brazil's Guanabara Bay. The presence of amphorae, which were used as shipping containers, often indicates that a Roman shipwreck is nearby, leading to the shocking idea that the ancient Romans may have reached the Americas hundreds of years before the earliest European explorers were known to arrive there.
I believe it.
The government was hesitant to investigate the matter, and much speculated that this could be how it saved America due to its long-standing ties with Portugal. Because the artifacts in question appear to date back to the 2nd century BC, if proven authentic, they stand to upend the story that the Portuguese were the first Europeans in Brazil. But it's unlikely that answers will ever be found as long as the government maintains its current stance in the matter. A year after Marx found the jars, further exploration of the area was banned, supposedly to deter looters, and the policy remains in effect to this day. Number 2. The Pollock Sisters. In 1957, sisters Joanna and Jacqueline Pollock tragically died when they were hit by a car in the small English town of Hexham. A year after the accident, their devastated parents went on to have twin girls, named Julian and Jennifer. John, the twins' father, had predicted that Joanna and Jacqueline would be reborn to their new children, and at first, his wife Florence was skeptical of this idea. From the beginning of their lives, however, the twins showed distinct signs of John's prediction being true. For example, there was a white line across Jennifer's forehead in the same exact spot where Jacqueline had a scar, and Jennifer also had the same birthmark as her deceased sister. As the girls grew, they resembled their older sisters. It's easy to talk through similarities as to a case of aging parents, desperately looking for signs of the children they lost, somehow still being there. Some of the twins' abilities cannot be explained rationally, including one incident where they visited a town where the deadly crash had occurred. They were able to identify landmarks that their older sisters had been familiar with, even though the family had moved away when they were babies. Julian and Jennifer also identified and correctly named dolls and other toys that had belonged to Joanna and Jacqueline. Perhaps the most disturbing sign of reincarnation that the twins experienced were the nightmares of car crashes that plagued them and their complete fear of driving cars. After the girls turned 5 years old, this and other occurrences or if lots of little coincidences added up to Number 1. A vanished family. When the swimming pool belonging to the Salomons, a Northridge, California family of 4, overflowed and spilled into the neighbor's yard in 1982, nearby residents realized that the home's occupants had vanished. They alerted the police, who found blood spatter and a cutaway piece of carpet in the bedroom of 14-year-old daughter Michelle, indicating the teen had met foul play. The DNA analysis was not readily available like it is now, and with no obvious signs of what happened to the Salomons, the authorities classified their disappearance as documents and personal effects belonging to some of the family members subsequently turned up in
I was gonna win that.
15 miles.
Oh, fuck, right. I left my ashtray at fucking Drew's place.
The night before anyone realized the Salomons were missing, Saul supposedly attended a car auction and ate at a restaurant with a business partner, whose story was fraught with inconsistencies and red flags, including the fact that the diner they supposedly visited was actually closed that night. The business partner was arrested, but there wasn't enough evidence for a conviction, and he walked free, with his guilt remaining doubtful to this day. Investigators failed to procure solid enough evidence to nab any other suspects in the case, which remains unsolved to this day. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, I haven't smoked yet this morning.
For these mysteries? Would you like to hear more? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you next time. Bye!
But yeah, no, I couldn't sleep on the floor at Drew's place another night.
That's a big fire! We need all the water we can get! Today's episode is brought to you by Lego City.
Ancient Egypt. A rich history that lasted for over 6.
We need to talk about Kevin.
Papa Murphy's presents How to Change the Way You Pizza. Step 1. Carefully knead dough. Step 2. Artfully spread.
This is Ashley with Watch Logo, and today we'll be counting down our picks for top 10 times robot chicken made from an anime. I'm the lovely Teejay.
No, Dad, I'm not the real yet.
For this list, we'll be going over the instances when the stop-motion animated series Robot Chicken will reference anime. If you like what you're hearing, be sure to check out the first song at the link below. Number 10, Digimon Tron. Tron Legacy focuses on Sam Flynn following his father Kevin into the digital game world of Tron. Robot Chicken tunes the film by matching it with an anime series that also features characters entering a digital dimension. Where am I?
You're in the digital world, like a game grid but on PCB. I'm Boros, a Digimon. Digivolve me into a little yellow dinosaur and we...
In the sketch, Kevin spends years stuck in the creature-filled world. He passed the time by tickling with Digimon.
Pokemon was the most gentle, but I say that within the context of it being terrible.
But before Kevin can return, Sam reveals the electric battery kill the power of the arcade that keeps the digital world alive. As the Digimon break down, Kevin hilariously the first leans more into the Tron side of the parody, it's still an entertaining combo. Number 9. Earth. Fan will tell you, the Sailor Scouts are named after the system, except Earth. That is, until now. While eating at a mall food court, the magical girls are attacked by a food vendor who becomes a giant churro. All of a sudden, a nearby man who claims to be Sailor Earth comes to their aid. After transforming, Sailor Earth shows that his powers are based on human qualities like
You cannot say those things!
Oh, racism doesn't exist anymore?
But it's his ability to summon unintended consequences that ultimately defeats the Hero Man. The sketch is a hilarious and disturbing take on an untapped part of Sailor Moon. Number 8. Henry Kissinger Pokemon. Pokemon battles usually involve various conflicts. Just didn't expect to see the perpetually youthful Ash Ketchum encounter an unexpected opponent in this sketch. While he chooses his customary Pikachu, his foe sends out former US Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger.
Henry Kissinger, I choose you! Relations with China.
That's... Instead of repeating his name aloud, Kissinger yells out controversial events that occurred during his administration. Ash and Pikachu are quickly overwhelmed by these historical facts. Bombs.
Should bomb Cambodia and Laos without telling Congress.
Attorney General type Pokemon, they're super effective against controversial secretaries of state.
Did I just learn something?
Number 7. Speed Racer joins NASCAR. Given that Speed Racing is a classic show about racing, combining the anime with NASCAR is a natural comedic matchup. This sketch features the title character joining the racing sports and really shaking things up. Although his tactics are both questionable and destructive, he proves to be a ratings hit. The sketch champions everything from NASCAR fans' apparent enjoyment of crashes to Japan's bizarre taste in erotica. But the sketch really excels at parodying every aspect of Speed Racer. Racer X's easily discerned identity? Check.
Don't worry, Speed. Help is on the way from a mysterious ally.
Hey, everybody! Give Speed Racer's secret brother some room!
Help your secret brother, Racer X! Boy, I wish I had a secret brother like Racer X.
Speed and Company's distinctive speech pattern? Check.
It is my goal to drive my car the fastest using all the RPMs at my disposal and cross the finish line before the other cars, which will result in me winning many races.
Spill and Chin Chin stowing away in the Mach 5. Oh. Yeah, that's dark. Number 6. Piccolo gets busted. During the first arc of Dragon Ball Z, then alien anti-hero Piccolo kidnaps Goku's son Gohan in order to train him, all in the hope of getting him stronger before the Saiyans arrive. This sketch sees police and child protective services arrive just as the combat training starts to get physical. They arrest Piccolo for child abuse, brainwashing, and feeding Gohan senzu beans. While the beans restore a fighter's energy in the series, the authorities mistake them for a new kind of drug. As bad as Mr. Piccolo's actions are within the context of the show, reframing them in this sketch makes his kidnapping seem so much worse. At least it's funnier for us, though.
Want some McDonald's?
No need! Mr. Piccolo gives me all the senzu beans I can eat!
Whoa, kid, they don't need to know about the senzu beans.
Number 5. Pokemon Daycare. The Pokemon Daycare is one of the odder features of the Pokemon games and anime. Basically, you leave your Pokemon with an elderly caretaker, and when you come back, there's an egg with no explanation of how it got there. This sketch plays the process up to the natural conclusion. In the parody, not only do some of the Pokemon who stay there engage in roleplay, but the old people running the facility apparently record the Pokemon's late-night activities.
These two are into roleplay. I have a shed full of props and costumes.
It's not too surprising that aspiring Pokemon breeder Brock is into the idea a little bit more than his friends.
Pikachu!
Number 4. Sailor Moon's Thorny Villains. Over a series of 3 sketches in the Joint Point episode, we see Sailor Moon villains getting a little too, well, let's say, excited about her. The first sketch sees her confronted by a villain on the street. After her elaborate transformation sequence causes him to have a visible, reaction, they both become too embarrassed to fight.
In the name of the moon, I will punish all my